Right. Since Brian is on, we were going to do the soap opera recap, but since Brian was on, I'm not. Yes, since Brian is on, I'm I'm encouraged to talk about a milestone that happened, I think, around 5 years or 6 years ago, and that was when I presented my first research paper to the SOUPS conference in Ottawa, Canada. It was Brian, myself, and another colleague called Hui Chuan, and this was our first study that we ever did. And I was nervous at times because this was my first time presenting in front of an academic conference, first time presenting an academic paper, but we prepared and we practiced ahead of time, and I was glad that we did because the audience loved it. That was our best paper. That was one of our best papers that we ever did. And if you want any information about general overview about what the study was, we interviewed and studied about, I think it was 13, 14 participants with visual impairments to understand their privacy and security concerns, particularly when logging in, when using websites to authenticate or log into a website. And we found all types of interesting insights. And actually, if you want to read more about what the study was, and our findings, I'm going to provide you a link in the chat. I'll provide a link in the chat for those of you who are interested in learning more about what we did in that study and the interesting findings that came out of that study. I'm going to throw a link in the chat as soon as I can find it. And it looks like we also have Christine Glenn on the show. So we've got a lot of callers, or we got a lot of listeners. And thank you very much for listening. And if you want to put in a song request, please feel free to use the chat. We were just talking about how 6 years ago we did Brian Huichuan and I did our first academic presentation up at the Symposium on Usable Privacy and Security up in Ontario, Canada. And I'm just about to throw a link in the chat if anybody is interested in learning more about what we did, what the study was, and what the findings that we had. It was a study with people with visual impairments, and so I don't really have enough time to give the whole lowdown of the entire study, but we had a lot of people forget their passwords. A lot of people have difficulties with knowing what password field to click on, and also it took time because they could not see. They had visual impairments, and they had difficulty finding where to log in or try to navigate the inaccessible web interface. But I've put the link in the chat, and it looks like everybody else is off. So this will be a good time to continue. We're going to close with the soap opera recap and possibly talk Tokyo 2021 when we come back.